Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica. Just back from, I don't know, wherever I was at, DC, on set for a while in London, and I don't know where else. The question I got was about relationships with comfort. So in training, you have to be uncomfortable in order to get anywhere, and this is like a huge problem. This relates back to the whole idea of giving 100% in training. And most people cannot give 100% in training because their brain simply won't allow them to. People can't give 100% because they don't know how to give 100%. They don't know where the line is between discomfort and injury. And this is something that is a learned skill that you have to practice and work on quite a bit for a long period of time. And that is the point of training. The point of training is to alter your relationship with being uncomfortable. Most of us live in the modern world where things are very comfortable all the time. We live in nice places, we have access to good food, we drink clean water. Most people don't grow up in the country anymore, so they didn't grow up on a farm like I did, where you just get really used to being uncomfortable, baling hay for 14 hours a day in 100-degree heat while wearing a long sleeve shirt so you don't get cut up. It gives you a pretty good relationship with being uncomfortable fairly quickly. This is something that most people have to work on when they come to training. Most people are used to being comfortable. In order to force change inside the body and the mind, you have to be mildly uncomfortable a little bit every day. I usually say that number is about 7% discomfort every day. Not 100% uncomfortable, because that doesn't work out, because people will never come back to training if they're that uncomfortable and that pushed for any length of time before they're mentally and physically ready to handle it. When you start your training, you start with easy things that we can accomplish. We don't give just like huge tasks on the first day, because it's not going to go well. People aren't prepared for it, their body's not prepared for it, and then after that first day of super hardcore training, they're so sore they can't move, and mentally they don't feel like they've accomplished anything, and it beats them down. We don't want to do that in training. We want to be just a little bit uncomfortable all the time. So we start with light weights and basic movement patterns, and we re-familiarize the body with important movement patterns, with squats. Most people can't do a squat. Most people are uncomfortable squatting below parallel because their body isn't sure if they're going to fall over or not. People aren't comfortable extending their arms overhead or locking out their joints. People have been told by all types of trainers for many, many years that you don't lock out your joints because, I don't know, there's some weird reason behind it. It's the same reason people say don't squat below parallel. Both of those things are horribly false. All athletes, really good athletes, squat below parallel, and all really good athletes lock out their joints. I always use ballet as my favorite example. A ballerina will go all the way down and all the way up, and she will hit full joint extension at every movement. The difference between flexion and extension of joints is something that we need to work on. People are not comfortable doing that. They have to be comfortable doing that. Making a straight line with your leg in aerial or in fighting is a learned skill that you have to learn how to do. The body's not sure where the edge of the joint alignment is, and so you can only learn that by experience. When I train people, I do everything in a mathematically based system where I give them a series of exercises and we work on it, and they're not going to be good at it the first time they do it. You're not going to be good at anything the first time you do it. That's the point. If you were already good at it, there would be no point in actually doing that training. I set it up mathematically, and we train, and then the next time I will mathematically look for a 5 to 7% increase in numbers. If you have 10 workout sessions and you get a 7% increase each time, over 10 sessions you can get a 70% increase. And then you tend to just jump programs and start learning new movement patterns. If you hammer movement patterns for too long, then people also, they get tired of it and their brain doesn't want to do it anymore. So you have to have variety, but not just randomized variety. You have to have variety within a theme. Let's say something simple in weight training. You start with one weight and you do these exercises X number of times and you get X number of increase in speed over the amount of time. You go up in weight and you start over, and people learn to adapt to a new thing. The difference between a normal person starting training and somebody who's already achieved a specific level of athleticism is their relationship to discomfort. Being uncomfortable is something that's just learned slowly. The brain has to have time to adapt. You can't just, like in movies, you see it all the time, they do it in movies because of storytelling. My favorite example of this is Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom, where he's on his journey to join the Crusades, and they're in a forest, and a guy's like, I'm going to teach you to fight. And he just hands him a sword and starts swinging it at him horribly violently at full force, and he just does it. That's not actually how that works. That's the same idea, it just takes more than one scene to do it. It takes 100 scenes over 100 days in order to accomplish that task. If you're moving so fast that you outrun that person's brain, they'll have a flinch response, as we call it, and you can see it when you're watching somebody, a twitch in the corner of the eye. So you move at a specific speed so that they can actually, their brain can see it, calculate distance, speed, and timing, try and figure something out, and then they get input back from the contact. Over time, it gets a little bit faster and it gets a little bit harder. And you can always tell if you're going too fast or too hard with an athlete, because they'll start to twitch the corner of their eye. And when you see that, because you're looking at them, because you're the coach, you know you need to back it down so that you're getting a positive training effect instead of an unpositive training effect. If they're so uncomfortable that they cannot adapt, if it's beyond their brain's ability to line up or to pick up the load, then you will get injury. If you get injury, then you're not going to get a positive training effect because you can't train anymore. The relationship to discomfort is something that you have to learn to deal with, but you have to accept going in that you will be minorly uncomfortable for a long period of time. That never stops. You are always going to be uncomfortable if you're still developing. There's always more to learn, there's always more to do. Same thing is true of fight training. Same thing is true of weightlifting. Learning about discomfort is something that's very important and takes a long time. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica talking to you a little bit about discomfort and how it is an athletic skill.